Who are some of your favorite golfers, both from the history and now, that, not necessarily for their playing style, but for their sportsmanship, their personality? Who do you really enjoy learning about and watching?
I mean, like Ben Hogan is is the favorite golf swing, and he just carried himself with such class and dignity from that era, right? I mean, he was just dressed like a gentleman. It looked like Ben Hogan. I just think of like first class and like it's Mr. Hogan, right? I love that era of that, the style and the way those guys carried themselves from that period of time. The guys who I grew up and, with my heroes is like Tommy Armour III. I've gotten to be friends with him. He plays our sub-70 clubs, but, he was one of my heroes. There was nobody cooler than TA3. He always had the beautiful girl on his arm, played great golf. He looked great in the clothes. He kind of looked like, a mixture of James Bond and John Wayne walking down the golf course. You could, it looked like TA3. So those were kind of like, from when Fred Couples, like those guys had a vibe. As you get, I love the way Scotty Scheffler and Rory and those guys play, but as you get older, when they get younger, there's not that same mystique as when you're a kid, right? And, when you get an autograph from Tommy Armour III, it's like, that's my hero, right? You can't believe you meet him. So I'm still nostalgic for the guys, and I've gotten to meet a lot of them, which has been great, but the guys who I grew up really, really admiring, Mr. Hogan from another era, and then my favorite was TA3. Man, he had great quote: "Look good, feel good, play good." That's from Tommy Armour III, right? So any guy saying that,
yeah, I've heard that quote before.
He figured it out quick, and he's a great player.
One of my favorite photos, I might get it put up in this office actually, is of Ben Hogan and Arnold Palmer waiting for the fairway to clear, just smoking their cigarettes on the tee box.
Old school, yeah. Like they don't make them like that anymore, right? That classic smoking pics, and they look great, right? They just looked like general. It just the way they, that era of how they dressed and how they looked, the clothes fit perfect. Like it almost looks like the picture was just taken, but wouldn't you agree? It looks like it's set up. They look so damn handsome.
Right. It looks like it's a kind of fashion art editorial, but they're actually playing golf. I wonder if, you mentioned that some of these golfers today maybe don't carry some of the same mystique for you. Maybe it's because you're not a kid anymore. But I also wonder, with golf being much more commercialized, as every sport is, and with social media, I question whether these players today also just have the freedom to create those kind of mysterious personalities, or like they feel like they have to be kind of watered down to be accepted as mainstream sponsorable sportsmen today.
There's no question, right? I mean, the risk reward of being outside of that box, that you're not marketable, would cost you millions of dollars, right? And I think like the social media part, the difference is like no one really knew Mr. Hogan. There was a mystique. They call it the Hogan mystique. So sometimes having less was more, So, now with social media, you can get an idea of what they want you to see in their lives, and they're a little bit more open. But, when I was growing up and watching those golfers, not knowing everything made it a little bit more of a mystique of they just had this aura on a golf course. You didn't get to see them behind the curtain. You saw what you saw on TV or watching them play live, which I think at some level is advantageous too, where they're going to give you what you want. And I would think in the in the 80s and the 90s, you had more personalities and players weren't all the same sort of corporate cutout a little bit too. You could get away with being a little bit more unique, right? Which made different personalities. There was more good guys and guys who got mad and heels and good guys. Like made it interesting. And now they're pretty much, and I'm sure their teams are talking to them about, these are the boundaries we need to stay in. So IBM will give me a contract. So, you don't get as much, would it be like personality as much, maybe?
Yeah,
a little bit more of a vanilla Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest exception to this from the last, he's quite old now, isn't he? But, John Daly is probably the modern golfer that people would think of as having the most personality. What do you think it is about him that has allowed him to have that longevity and also, commercial appeal within his own lane. It might not be IBM sponsoring him, but I'm sure he's doing very well with his sponsors.
I think golf, first off, he's authentic. And I know John pretty well. And the guy you see is who you get. That is him. He's a real person. And you can tell he's a good soul. People love him because they think they could have a beer with him and he would be fun and kind to hang out with, on top of his talents and abilities and everything else. And that is true. So authenticity, people can smell authenticity. And that guy is as American, as authentic as you can get. And I all think we wish we could drink 10 beers, smoke 2 packs of cigarettes, and still shoot 5 under par and have his ability, right? So there's also this, like, how does he do it? He's like as American as apple pie, like people. Yeah. But I think the core of it is he's authentic, and people recognize how authentic he is. And in private, is the same guy you see in the public. He's a really good guy.
A quick thank you to today's sponsor, Ota. Ota is one of those brands that I've been a paying customer of long before they were interested in sponsoring the show, which is why I'm so happy to bring them to you today. If you're into menswear at all, shirts, ties, cufflinks, the things that really elevate an outfit, Ota has an incredible selection of both classic designs and more modern, expressive pieces. The company was founded by 2 brothers down under, and I can tell you, these guys truly care about their customers and creating the best products around. They also do fast worldwide shipping. Ota is offering a discount for listeners of the Gentleman's Collective podcast. Use the code JamesLawley10 at ota.com for a 10% discount. If you are upgrading your wardrobe this year, start with one of their shirts, neckties, or cufflinks. They make a bigger difference than most people realize. So that's JamesLawley10 at ota.com for 10% off.